Good afternoon. How are you? Well, it's the afternoon of Christmas Eve day, and we're going on a walk. Temperature is nice, it's 54. But this evening, it'll probably be around 26. Maybe we'll talk about that in a minute. The environment's on my mind, and CNN, if you saw it today, devoted its show, the network show, to the question of the environment and how our companies are putting us at risk, and talked in some detail about what we all know to be true, that the planet is literally at risk. And if you're at a latitude now, northern or southern hemisphere, that's going to change, because the planet will be engulfed if we do not act. And the question is, which James Hansen, formerly of NASA at Columbia, he's concerned whether we've reached that pivot point, that is a point at which, beyond which we cannot do anything. And those active believe that you can turn some of it back, and the question is, can we do that? And ironically, they're invoking Ronald Reagan, who talked about the holes in the ozone layer and how we might deal with that. And that's argued to be a success story as compared to what is a much more difficult problem, which is the warming of the earth because of humans. And these things are not in dispute anymore. Maybe one raised as a hypothetical, but there's too many data points. Another thing on my mind, which has to do with, again, truth in government, because the environment, if anything, is an example of a corpus delicti when it comes to reviving the planet. We are set on a course that if we do not change, we're going to fail, and we're going to fail because people are still calling it a fraud, and it's not. So let's turn to another fraud, Associate Justice Thomas. There are two parts to the animus I have against him. One is he was never qualified to be on the court in the first place. And the second is that on the court, he has been corrupt. That is to say, as a judge, as a person, he knows he shouldn't be taking these favors and then deciding cases that are within one dimension away from the people who are supporting him, who have cases before the court. But a new development, and I believe this is a story in the Times. I remember reading it, but I'm not sure if it's the Rhymes of the Post. And the story is that the law clerks of Thomas are running around now defending him. And they're saying what a wonderful person he is and everything. Again, a truth in government problem. And part of the answer to that is never hire one of these bastards who is supporting Thomas and lying about him, rather than, you would think, with the gifts they have at law and reasoning, they would say, you know, we loved Thomas and he's been good to us all these years, and all these referrals and everything we got from the Thomas clan, if you will, but he shouldn't be taking these funds. And of course, they have no problem with the Roe v. Wade being overturned and the other data points on the court that show that the problem with Thomas is a combination not only of his ability at the law to do what's right and to follow precedent, but also to be right, to be justice, to be beyond reproach for how he conducts himself as a, quote, private man. And years ago, I was a local special justice, and the rules were very stern, and some were concerned that I still had associates in politics, even though I wasn't running a campaign or anything. And so we look at Thomas on the highest court in the land defying huge amounts of accusations about the resources he's gotten because he's on the court that he probably would not get under any other circumstance. There's an interesting notion going around, which is Putin, while saying one thing publicly, sounds like he's prepared to sit down and negotiate if he's allowed to keep the territory he has presently as a result of the conflict in Ukraine. I would guess that's a non-starter. but it's a difference, and it's a difference we've heard, I think, Trump say. So it gives you an idea of how the Republican Party, once very concerned about Russia, is not concerned, indeed would help the Russians take from a democratic society right on the edge of NATO its right to independence and to be free of invasion. So there's that. I think that I would be remiss if we didn't talk about what today is and the season and what that means. I like to think of the most honest aspect of the season is the winter solstice. It is the day in which the day is the shortest and it's about to turn to becoming longer. It's a day in which we have the most rest. And it goes back to nature. And so it's natural, it's real, it happens, and it's already happened. I don't know if it's the 21st or the 22nd, and here we are on the 24th. So I like that origin because it's true, and it encompasses all that we are in a natural sense. But what else is there about the season? And I think you feel it. I mean, everybody says in these difficult times, it's good to have a friend, a family member, and to be close to them. But it's also a time of year I found over my lifetime that people who are close to us, who are ill, want to make it to this holiday because family will be together. And I say make it because their health is compromised. And in my own family, we had quite a number of people that would pass slightly before, at, or soon after these holidays. And I think this is without regard to how you decide this is a period of time during the winter solstice to have a holiday. Now, I remember my grandmother, who left Ireland at 6 years of age, and until the day she died, you would think she left Ireland the day before and she still had a slight brogue. And it was a rainy day, how appropriate. And what I remember particularly, as we sat in dark cars, limousines, I think, rented for the occasion, and I was a child, and the rain was coming down, and it was mixed with snow, and there was a man almost in silhouette because he was dressed all in black, and he had on a hat that was black, not too broad a rim, and I could see he was looking at the cars to see where my grandmother was. And he was slightly stooped, but also somehow erect. And as the car passed with her in it, he took off his hat and he bowed his head to my grandmother. I never saw him before. I never saw him afterward. I don't know who he was. That's one of the aspects of this season. That at that time of year, we lose people we care the most. And there is never a good time. But maybe it is the best time when you can be with friends and family before you pass, or anticipating being with them, because it's a joyous occasion for that fact. Of course, the grieving in a season that you hope to be of joy, but that is the way of life. There's not much we can do about that. So, but the other thing about this time is that we don't perform the best. I think particularly of the commercialism of giving gifts and so forth. And I think we've lost sight of one of the most important aspects of this season. Those who worship Christmas, the birth of a young Jewish boy who thinks of himself and is a rabbi in his early life, his family comes to Bethlehem, and there's no place for him to stay. So it's a poor couple undergoing an exercise of the government having to do with taxation and so forth. And they don't have a place to stay. You would think that would send a message to us about what we should be doing about those who are homeless or compromised in that period of the year. But instead, and I don't know how exactly this happened, but even in our most important holidays, they're surrounded by lies. And I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter to adults, but these lies are told to children. Santa is one lie. And I'm not just talking about an historical figure who was a saint who thought of gifts during this time of the year, but I'm thinking of sailing around the earth all in a single day and dropping packages down chimneys that no longer exist. Why do we tell kids a story like that? And this is not bah humbug. There's nothing wrong with celebrating a good event. I remember as a child telling someone else who still believed in Santa, so I became part of this prevarication that, oh yeah, I think Santa's over. Because as kids, we wondered, will the presents not come? See, talk about having mixed views about this. Will the presents not come if we know Santa's not real? And I think that when we think of bunnies and, the things that we tell children about the fairies leaving funds under your pillow and so forth. I knew about it when one morning I woke up and I didn't have any money, gelt under my pillow, having lost a tooth. And my mom said, go back to bed, and I did. And a short time later, I could feel a hand go under the pillow, and I got my present from the fairies. Why do we tell kids lies like that? Why can't we decide to stop it now, forever? But we can't. There's a problem among us that says one thing and does another. We're telling our kids to be honest and truthful, but the most important advice you can give a child is by how you conduct yourself. So when they know, as they do, and they learn, what do they make of those lies? So what else could we be doing this season? Like I said, it's right now it's 54 degrees, very pleasant out, and it'll be 26 tonight. And there will be people sort of like Jesus, Mary, and Joseph in the Christian tradition who don't have a place to stay. And so when it's 26 degrees, they won't have a place to stay. Maybe they have found, stolen, had a blanket to put over them. But you have only so much energy to resist the cold. It gets into your very bones. So for years I've asked, why doesn't the government open its buildings and let people stay in there at night? Some do this. Why not? If we really do care about other people, if from the Sermon on the Mount we think you should love your neighbor as yourself, well then do what is right and necessary. Open the government buildings. Show that your practice follows your belief. Humans present us with a problem. We have people in the highest reaches with the greatest amount of power, strength, expanse, wealth, and it's as if they live on an island, having nothing to do with us. Oh, and there are great exceptions to this rule too. People who have amassed fortunes, and some would say, isn't it all in disproportionate to what they should fairly have? I mean, how did they get that? Obviously, they're charging too much for something. But there are people who care and act and do. So if we believe some of the things we say, maybe we should act upon it. If we believe as we speak, then we should act as we believe. And that would include at least taking care to satisfy that one story of a young family trying to find a place to stay, supposedly not even put in a room, but put in a barnyard, and the child is born in a manger. And then this child, in this story, is put at risk because a king sees that a child may challenge him. So, this is a time in which you should embrace those you love. And if grief comes, expect it and know that it's because this time of year is a time when a person may get to find to be with the people who care. And when they talk about that's a good passage, that's a good passage. And we should embrace that part of it as well. But I return to the winter solstice, because the winter solstice is where we find ourselves with the emerging light. That is, the days are getting longer. The tilt of the earth and the sun, natural pairings, are adjusting themselves to give us light. And we should take it as a metaphor for that we should embrace the light. We have problems around the world, and we should embrace those. We have people close to us whom we care for, and we should embrace those. And with that mixed message, I wish you season's greetings. I celebrate the winter solstice. Hanukkah is past, and I hope it was wonderful. Christmas is upon us, and there are various other religions and beliefs that celebrate in this period of the year, born of the natural consequence of the earth, the sun and the moon, and light. So let there be light. More light than we've shown in this past year. And move on from there. So I say good afternoon to you from my cathedral of trees, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.